Meeting is being recorded. Canada, just north of Toronto.
Hey Mitch, welcome to the call.
Thanks, Kern.
Hey Pauline, welcome from BC. Thank you. We'll give it a few more minutes and then we'll get started. But thank you for being on time. All right. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Kareem Premji. I'm a holistic nutritionist and also a teacher in the field of nutrition. And tonight you're going to learn about something quite impressive when it comes to the area of, I'd say, preventative healthcare. And it's setting the tone for a brand new industry here in North America called test-based nutrition. It's been pretty popular in Europe for just over 20 years, and we're just catching on here in North America. And so, as a teacher in this field, as a nutritionist in this field, I found this to be quite remarkable when I learned about it earlier this year. And so, tonight I'm going to share with you exactly why this is so important, how it could assist you in your own well-being and possibly even make a difference in your circle of influence, because we all definitely want to enjoy better health and vitality this year, right? I think that's always on the agenda for people when they're setting goals for the new year, or the new reset. We all definitely want to be healthy, we want to be vibrant. And the one thing I want to point out there is that the moment something does happen in your well-being, do you notice how it becomes the center of your world, right? If you get sick, if you get a diagnosis of something, if you're not feeling good, you start to realize how important your well-being was. and then we forget about it, right? When we're energized, when we're healthy, we don't think about it because we're doing so much stuff in life. But the moment that is taken away from us, it becomes the center of our attention. Our health becomes number one. And as a nutritionist, I am seeing a lot of rises in healthcare issues. So many people are dealing with chronic health issues, and they're really not getting to the root cause of the problem. Now, many of you've felt this as well. You know, you'll go to your doctor, you'll tell them that there's something wrong. They'll look at the symptoms, and usually they'll give you some medications to deal with the symptoms. And how many of you are just tired of symptom-based management, right? Dealing with the symptoms and keeping the disease actually there for years on end. So the question we need to start asking is, what is going on that's causing a lot of these health issues? And is there something in our blind spot that we don't know we don't know? Let me say that one more time. You know how there's things that we know about and there's things that we know we don't know about, right? Like I know that I don't know how to fly a plane, right? I know that for sure. But then there's things out there that you don't know, you don't even know, right? And so tonight, hopefully, I get to share something with you that you didn't know you didn't know. And when that comes into your awareness and you can actually take action on it, it might just be one of those things that shift your wellness into a whole new trajectory and allow you to experience wellness. And that's the intention for tonight, is to share with you something that's important, that's been overlooked, but it can actually make a drastic difference in your wellness and, of course, your family, your friends, and your circle of influence. Now, we've all heard this saying, let food be your medicine and medicine be your food. How many of you have all heard that, right? It's pretty popular. It's been around for well over 2,000 years from Hippocrates. And we know that we should be eating our medicine. We should be getting the right nutrients into our bodies. But unfortunately, we don't live like our grandparents. We don't eat whole foods all the time. We don't grow things ourselves. We don't have soils that are rich in minerals. And as a result, our food choices have shifted. And if we go back just two, three generations, people ate whole foods, they ate local, they picked them ripe, they, didn't spray a whole bunch of chemicals on them, and they didn't get another company to manufacture and package them. How many of you understand that's been a huge shift? And as a result of that, is that our modern food systems are not designed for nutrient density. They're designed for feeding a lot of people things that taste good and that can stay on the shelf for a long period of time. How many of you now understand that, right? You walk into any grocery store, and 80% of it, all the stuff in the middle, is manufactured to be on a shelf for a very long period of time. Whereas all the real stuff is around the perimeter, right? You kind of get your fruits and veggies, dairy, meat, breads, and grains and whatever. And then if you just stuck with that, that would probably be the best options. But fortunately, there's a lot of colors, preservatives, additives, full of sugar, empty calories, and full of seed oils. Now, how many of you know the story of seed oils? And if you don't, tonight you're going to learn a little bit about that. Well, originally, you'll see from this chart, our food supply did not have seed oils. It was really non-existent before the early 1900s. Okay, you'll see 1909, we weren't using anything. But by the end of 2019 and even until today, we're using millions of tons of vegetable oil in our food system. This includes corn, canola, soy, safflower, all of these seed oils where you need tons of seeds to press them to get some type of oil out of them. Now, here's the story of canola. Canola actually stands for Canada oil. And canola, originally called rapeseed, was grown here because rapeseed was really good to use in machinery. It was actually motor oil. How many of you knew that? Well, now you know. Unfortunately, rapeseed oil has a type of fatty acid in it called usuric acid, which is toxic to the human body. It's toxic to our liver. Okay, so we cannot consume the original rapeseed oil. So they had to genetically modify it in order for it to have a lower amount of uric acid, and then it became something that we could possibly eat. But once we moved out of using it for machinery, they had to process it. They had to clean it and crack it and dry it and dehull it and temper it and flake it and degum it and neutralize it and bleach it and winterize it and oil blend it. And then put it in a plastic bottle, stick a label on it, and say, this is made from vegetables. It's good for you. How many of you see that? That's very misleading. All right. And during the early 50s and 60s, they started to market vegetable oils as being a healthier alternative than the saturated fats, the animal-based fats that our grandparents or great-grandparents were using and our ancestors have been using for hundreds or even thousands of years. They vilified saturated fat and they put these industrial vegetable oils on a pedestal saying that they were heart healthy. And just this past week, they completely changed the USDA food guide. How many of you saw some social media posts on that? They just flipped the pyramid upside down. And so we know that that advice that's been floating around for a whole generation almost was completely wrong. And part of that equation is we've been over consuming these seed oils and not just ourselves. We've been feeding it to our livestock. So if you go back to this picture, do you think chickens are going out there and eating grass and bugs all day? Or do you think they're in little cages being fed corn and some grains for the majority of the eggs out there? Okay, so they're out of balance. Same thing with cattle. We feed them corn and canola and soy instead of allowing them to be grass fed, which again, if done properly, is good for the environment. It's actually a way to remove carbon from the environment. But the current way the industrial system does it is not good for the animal and it's not good for us to consume it. So does everybody see this is an underlining problem? Now, I know we all feel it, we all sense it, we try to do our best, we try to go to farmers markets, hopefully, but there's still something in our blind spot. And what that is actually the understanding that our body actually needs a balance between two types of essential fats. Now, when I say the word essential, what does that ring in your head? Hopefully, you think about it as you need it, there's no way around it. It's a requirement. Just like if you had a car has an essential fuel that needs to be put into it for it to operate. How many of you get that it's that important? That's what essential means. So really, we have two types of essential fats that our bodies need every day that our bodies cannot make on their own, and they need to be in a certain balance. Okay, kind of like you need motor oil, you need fuel, you need some windshield washer fluid, you need all those things for your car, and whenever they're down, you refill them. Does everybody get that? They need to be there for your car to operate, for you to be safe. Same goes for our essential fats. Now, the two particular ones called omegas, omega 6s and omega 3s, they actually do two very important roles in the body, but they're opposing roles. Okay, they're opposing roles. Now, a lot of people know about omega 3. They've heard about it. They already probably take fish oil, or you've heard of flaxseed oil or fish oil or whatever. But a lot of people are not too familiar with omega 6. So omega 6 is, again, a type of fatty acid that your body will use to create inflammation signaling. Let me say that one more time. When you get a cut, when you get injured, when there's a trigger that happens from your environment to your body will take the stored omega 6 and create the inflammatory process in the body. Now, what is that inflammatory process? Well, we all know that when you get injured, it turns hot, it swells up, we see more blood flow there, it hurts. All of that is a response to a trigger. Does everybody get that? Now, if you do get injured, You want that to happen because you don't want to keep injuring yourself, right? You need to stop doing the thing that's hurting you. You need a signal. That's what inflammation is supposed to do. It's supposed to tell your body, stop what you're doing, give me a chance. This tissue is damaged. I need to heal it. Does everybody see how that is a very critical thing for the body to experience? Okay, everybody got that? So we do need inflammation, but we need it in the right dose. On the flip side, we need omega 3s to later turn off that inflammatory process. Everybody got that? So we need the omega 3s to quench the fire of inflammation. So if you have a lot of omega 6 and you can basically light a lot of fires, but you don't have enough omega 3 to turn them off, what happens? You have a raging fire that never ends. Does everybody get that's what's happening in chronic inflammation? So, in chronic inflammation, you've got too much omega 6, not enough omega 3, and this imbalance is what causes us to have an ongoing fire burning in our body called silent inflammation, and it affects all of our tissues at the cellular level. So, what is the right balance and what should that ratio be? Well, guess what? It's being measured. And that ideal ratio is a ratio of 3 parts omega 6 to 1 part omega 3. Basically, a 3-to-1 ratio. We can get away with more omega 6, but as long as it's only 3-to-1 or less. Does everybody get that? So 3-to-1 is the ideal. However, after we started over consuming seed oils, which are very high in omega 6 and void of omega 3, of course, we started eating industrial food. And in all of our industrial food, all the packaged food, you'll turn it around and you'll see that there's a fat content. They always tell you how much saturated fat there is in there, but they never tell you how much omega 6 is in there. Have you noticed how that's kind of misleading? You'll see something that's like 10 grams of fat, and they'll say, oh, the bad fat, the saturated is 2 grams, and then they don't tell you anything else. So it's like you have to go, okay, so there's another 10 grams missing there. Is that all omega 6? Is there a little bit of omega 3 in there? Guess what? It's probably all omega 6 from vegetable oil. So we've been over consuming it. Our ratios have shifted to now being in the 60s, it was a 4-to-1. But today, when we test people, they're a 25-to-1, even a 40-to-1 omega 6 to omega 3, which means we are really out of balance, like way out of balance, way out of being in a state of being able to deal with inflammation. So, does everybody get that that's a really big issue? If you're going to be this much out of balance, 20 times the omega 6 to omega 3, this could lead to a lot of problems. And in fact, it does. If you look at all of these health issues that people complain about, one of the root causes is going to be inflammation. The body is not resolving it. It continues to fire, to fuel that fire. And over time, it degrades the tissue that's affected. And this means that a lot of these problems that people are facing today, they do actually have a root cause, but they're not being addressed. Does everybody get how big this problem is? Okay. So this is why I'm so passionate about this topic, is because now I've realized through the education I've gotten through Zinzino and our test-based nutrition model that the average person right now walking around in our own families, around our circle of influence, has a 25-to-1 omega 6 to omega 3 ratio when the ideal should be 3-to-1 or less. This means that it is likely the most critical but overlooked proxy of systemic inflammation, and it's probably the most important number for your health and longevity that you didn't know until now. Because most doctors don't test for it, most people don't talk about it, and now we are bringing it to your attention so that you can actually do something about it. Now, it is very pervasive. What do I mean? Well, when we consume omega 6s and omega 3s, although they are in the class of fats, A lot of people think, oh, if I eat some fat, I can go burn it off. How many of you were in that mindset? We can burn off fat. That is true for different types of fats, like some of our saturated fats, like butter and coconut oil, and some of the animal-based foods that we eat. Saturated fats we do use a lot for energy. However, omega 6s and omega 3s, the body, because they're essential and they're used as a building material, your body doesn't want to burn them for energy. It wants to use them to construct your cells. Let me say that one more time. Your body will save the omega 6 and the omega 3 and place them in the structure around your cells. Each one of your 40 trillion cells is surrounded by what we call a cell membrane. And inside that cell membrane, that entire green area that you're seeing on that slide is a whole bunch of omega 6, your omega 3, a little bit of saturated fat, and some cholesterol. And that's the building material of all of your cell membranes. Now, how many of you see that that's really important to know? Okay, so it's not about just burning it off. You're not burning it off, you're storing it in every single new cell your body is making all the time. So, what is coming into your diet is critical in order for you to maintain good balance. And talking about the cell, if the cell has the wrong type of imbalance of fats, those fats will change how that cell is able to operate. What do I mean by that? Well, if the cell membrane has way too much omega 6, way too much of the wrong saturated fats, not enough of the omega 3, then it actually becomes more hard and rigid. Think of a raisin that is kind of dehydrated. It's really hard and tough until you soak it in water. Well, your fatty membranes, if they've got the wrong balance of fats, they will become not basically resilient. They're going to be incapable of operating correctly. So this means that it's going to be very hard for nutrients to get in the cell and waste products to get out. Now, if you've got 40 trillion cells in your body, do you want them to look like that? Or would you want them to be in their correct form, where they've got the right balance of fats, where nutrients can flow in, waste can get out, they're fully hydrated, they're fully oxygenated, and they're able to do what they need to do best. Obviously, you want the ones on the right, the nice green ones, and that's the idea that we're trying to present, which is, hey, if you're out of balance at a cellular level, it's going to affect upstream all of your tissues, it's going to affect all of your organs, and then as a result, all of your organ systems. So getting that back into balance is critical. And if you are in the range of 3 to 1 or less, hey, you can easily navigate health issues as they come up. You're resilient, you recover fast. When you go to the gym and you work out, you don't feel the pain for weeks on end. You're good to go. But if you're in that red zone, a 25 to 1, it just takes one thing to kick you out of balance, and man, you're dealing with a severe health issue. Why? Because you've got chronic inflammation, doesn't resolve, and then you might suffer for weeks, months, years on end. So, the future is not about guessing where you stand. The future is all about finding out what's going on in your body. Isn't that the smartest thing we've always been taught to do? Is don't guess, test. And that's the same thing doctors always do, right? When you go to your doctor, they have a certain amount of blood tests that they are aware of. And before they prescribe anything or they do anything, they typically will run labs. How many of you have noticed that? They'll go say, go do blood work. I'm not going to guess. I just need to know what your numbers are. We all understand that. We see how important that is. But unfortunately, sometimes it takes decades before the medical world catches up on certain tests that should be done. For example, even in Canada today, if you want to do your vitamin D test, which is so important, our vitamin D status is so important, you have to pay for it. Don't you think something as important as vitamin D should be included in regular blood work, especially as Canadians? If you're Canadian on the call tonight, or even if you're from the United States, we're all deficient. Wouldn't it make sense for them to test these things, right? But they don't. They make it optional, and you still have to pay for it. but it took them years to start even acknowledging the importance of your vitamin D status. Everybody get that? It takes time. Same thing with our omega 6 omega 3 ratio. They're still in the dark about it. So, what Zinzino pioneered is health autonomy, where we're bringing healthcare directly to the person so that they can get themselves tested and not have an intermediary. Does that make sense? You don't need to ask for permission. You don't have to convince somebody if you want to find out what's going on in your body. And so, what Zinzino created was a simple, anonymous, in home dry blood spot test that allows you to take just one prick of blood. Okay, not a whole vial. You don't have to go to a lab. You don't have to take your whole afternoon out somewhere and go somewhere. Just do it from home. You put it on that test card, and you can now submit it to one of the best labs in Europe that is a specialist in dry blood spot technology. Okay, so we just need a drop of blood. And again, this is not a company that is associated with Zinzino. We're just a client. We use them because they're really good at what they do. And they actually are official partners of many universities and other institutions. But they are the ones that look at your blood, and they're not looking at what's floating in the blood. It's not what you ate last night that we're looking at. They're looking at the composition of your red blood cell membranes. So those little fats, that are actually embedded in the actual cells, we want to know what your cells are made out of, and that gives us an idea of your diet over the last 4 months. Why 4 months? That's the lifespan of our red blood cells. So we do the test, we send it in, it's completely anonymous, but then 3 to 4 weeks later, you're going to get a comprehensive report that details 11 different types of fatty acids that are in your red blood cells. But to make it simple for you to understand, there's going to be a little dashboard. It's going to tell you your omega 6 to omega 3 ratio right there in center stage. And the other thing I want you to pay attention to is the omega 3 index. That's at the bottom left there. And that should be between 8 and 10%. Okay. So all of these are going to be on the report. They're going to tell you your mental strength, your cell membrane fluidity, protection value, and so on, so that you can now see if you're out of balance or if you're in balance. Now, if you're out of balance, it basically triggers to you that what you are currently doing is not working. How many of you get that? So if you're taking fish oil, if you think you're eating sardines, if you're thinking you're eating salmon every week, if you think you're eating sushi, whatever you think you're doing, by doing the test, that is the proof that whatever you're doing, is it working or is it not working? How many of you find that that was very insightful? Now, it was insightful for me because I was always taking fish oil supplements, okay? And when I did my test, my omega 3 index was less than 4%. Remember, it should be 8 to 12%. So I realized that the omega 3 supplement I was taking wasn't moving or getting into my tissues, so it wasn't working. How many of you think that's a huge revelation? Especially because I teach people in practice to become nutritionists and actually use omegas to help people. And if those omegas aren't doing anything, that is important insight, right? So I was impressed. I was like, okay, now I understand that typical fish oils are not working. I need to find a better strategy. So getting tested is fundamental to bringing clarity on what you've been doing, if it works, and then what we can do to make a difference. So if you're deficient, we now know that it's not working for you. However, if you are doing the right things and you are in balance, Zinzino's testing actually has a guarantee that if you balance 3 to 1 or better, then whatever you paid for your test from Zinzino, they will actually give you a refund, congratulate you on the back, and say, you know what, you may not even need our supplement because whatever you're doing is working. Isn't that fantastic? First time I've seen a supplement company say, you know what, before you even start taking our product, we want you to get tested independently. We're going to use a third party lab. We're going to see what you've been doing and what your status is. And then, if there's a need, then you know what? You should give our solution a try. And how many of you feel that that is honorable and it has integrity, right? Whereas other companies would say, oh yeah, you definitely need our product and our product alone, and we're just going to guess how much you need to take and just take it. Do you understand that that's not where the future lies? People no longer want to do things based on just doing them. They want to know why they're doing them, and they want to prove that it actually is making a difference. That's where we're headed. Complete transparency, proof, and actually making a difference in our health outcomes. So, I was impressed by number one, having a test that I could do, and I didn't have to convince a doctor to administer one. But what impressed me even more was how needed this is. Zinzino has now had over 1.5 million people get tested around the world. So we now have the biggest understanding of the problem that's out there. And guess what? Out of 1.5 million tests, 97% of the world is going to fail the test. They are not going to be in a state of balance. And what that means is they're not eating enough fish, their supplements are not working, and they're in a state of chronic inflammation. They don't have the right fats in their bodies. And this is a global problem, not one country here or there. All of them combined, you'll see the numbers on your slide, they are all out of balance. So, knowing this is key, but testing it brings clarity and it prompts people to want to make a difference or want to make a choice. How many of you get that? The moment you find out that what you're doing isn't working, you're going to say, what should I do that does work? Does everybody get that? That's the smart thing to do next. And again, what I loved about learning about Zinzino's model and their health concept was they're not just there to scare you that you're out of balance, they actually offer a solution that's being proven by blood work to help people get back into balance in as little as 120 days. So, in the little as 4 months, we can demonstrate to people that we can return their omega 6 3 balance in the right zone. Their omega 3 index will go up. And guess what starts to happen in their body? It actually starts to work properly. They start to feel better. Their skin looks better. Their, energy is up. They recover faster from the gym. Weird skin issues that they were facing before start to begin to resolve. The body has the building blocks it was craving for so long, and it's getting itself back into balance. Does everybody get that this is a very powerful thing to do as long as it actually works? And we can prove that it works because of this blood test. So, this isn't just a marketing company that puts a label on a product. We're actually a science company that is based all on research. And you'll notice that we've now published the largest study of its kind in the journal Lipids and Health and Disease this past year, where we actually showed the world that we had a standardized test. We used 580,000 samples to show that the world is currently out of balance, that what they're doing is not working. So the biggest thing that comes up to me as a question is, well, I thought that my omegas were clean and they're distilled and they've got a lot of omega 3 EPA and DHA. Well, why is the entire thing not working? Like, I thought it's pretty simple. So I'm not saying that fish oils do not have omega 3s in them. I want to be clear on that. The industry is really good at putting omega 3s in a bottle, but the industry didn't realize that the body needs something else in order for it to stay protected and actually get into your tissues where they make a difference. Does everybody get that? So that was the big reveal. And that big thing that is missing is a word that you want to write down called polyphenols. Everybody take a moment, write it down. Polyphenols is that new magic word that you're going to start talking to people about. So when you leave this webinar, your friends, your family, your spouse, or whatever is going to say, "What were you just on?" "Oh, I was learning about polyphenols, something really exciting for health." "Oh, what is that?" "Let me ask ChatGPT." Go ahead, type it into ChatGPT and ask the benefits of polyphenols. And what people don't know is that omega 3s are actually made originally by algae in our oceans. And algae will create omega 3 fatty acids, but they will bind or attach them to polyphenols. These are like antioxidants. So when the little tiny fish eat the algae, they get not just the omega 3s, but they get polyphenols delivering those omega 3s into their tissues. Does everybody get what I just said? Polyphenols should be bound to omega 3s and they act to preserve them so that they don't oxidize or get damaged or break down or break apart. And they deliver those fatty acids into the tissues of the small fish that are consuming that algae. It's a delivery mechanism. Then the little tiny fish are eaten by larger fish, so there's a transfer of tissue that way. They get the polyphenols, they get those omega 3s. And then we as humans, when we eat fish, okay, we're especially fatty fish coming from a clean source, we do get those omega 3s and we do get polyphenols. That's the natural way of eating fish. Helped us evolve and create our brains and our central nervous system, et cetera, et cetera. So we need them and they're essential. And at some point, our bodies needed to ensure that they came from our diet. That's why seafood was always very important, or eating grass-fed animals was very important because that was another source of omega 3s. Okay, so the grass and the cattle would eat it, we would eat those ruminants, and we would get some omega 3s that way as well. So, unfortunately, eating fish today is a bit more difficult because of the toxicity in our oceans, the heavy metals, and it's really expensive to buy salmon. Like, how many of you have seen fatty fish today? It's like one serving is like $15. We can't do that every day. That's way too expensive. So, a lot of people use fish oil. What does the fish oil industry do? Well, they take the waste of the fishing industry and they press the oil out of it, then they have to clean that oil because it has all those contaminants in it. And in the process of cleaning the oil, they actually wash away the polyphenols that were in the fish. So the cleaning is so good, they wash away the other part of the equation, which is the polyphenols. So every fish oil right now on the market, they're very clean. They've got those omega 3s in there, but they're missing polyphenols, which means they're not protected. Now, how many of you have noticed that these oils come from a very cold, dark environment in the oceans? Omega 3s do not turn, they freeze at a very, very cold temperature. They allow fish to stay very flexible. Does everybody get that? Whereas saturated fats, they become solid at room temperature. So this means that temperature plays a huge role in omegas, light plays a huge role in omegas, heat plays a huge role in omegas, and oxygen plays a huge role in the integrity of omegas. Guess what breaks down omega 3s? Heat, light, oxygen. Let me say that one more time. What breaks omega 3s into its component parts? Heat, light, and oxygen. And we call that oxidative stress or lipid peroxidation. Does everybody get what I just said? So omega 3s are very, very, very fragile. The moment we take them out of the oceans, out of fish, out of those polyphenols, they are highly reactive to oxygen, to light, and to heat. So in this oil industry, we're removing the polyphenols, we're putting them in soft gels or liquid, we're exposing them to oxygen, and then when we consume them, they're now getting raised to our body temperature. Not like fish that are cold-blooded, right? They're in this really cold environment. So this is why they are easily damaged. Now, when they are damaged, and we hear this all the time, oh, the omegas are oxidized. What does that mean? That means that the actual omega 3 molecule breaks in half, and those two new halves are toxins for the body. Let me say that one more time. When omega 3s oxidize or they get damaged and they break apart, those new molecules are not good for the body has to detoxify them, and they themselves become inflammatory. Oh my God, are you saying that some of my omega-3 fish oil is actually causing inflammation in my body? That's exactly what I'm saying. If it's oxidized and damaged and it smells fishy, it is fishy. It's not good. It's not good for you. You want to avoid those oils at all costs. So, a lot of people right now, in fact, there's over 200 million people, I think, or more, that currently take a fish oil supplement and they don't know that they might actually be doing more harm than good by taking that fish oil supplement because it's missing the protective benefits of polyphenols. This was a big news blast to me this year because I've been promoting omegas for so long, and I thought, okay, you know what? They put a little bit of vitamin E in the jar. Oh, they put a little bit of rosemary in there. That's gonna be perfectly fine. No, when you consume that oil, the body separates the vitamin E from the fatty acids, and now you've got all these fatty acids floating around unprotected. Does everybody see the problem here? Okay, so I wanted to really illustrate this, and I wanted to show you why when we test people that do use fish oils, they're still not in balance and their omega-3 index isn't at that 8%. It's because those omegas are not working. They're actually potentially doing more harm. This is where Zinzino comes to the rescue. They discovered this 15 years ago. They're like, you know what? We need those polyphenols. They're very, very important. So what we're going to do is we're going to find a clean source of polyphenols that are already really good for human health. And guess what? Look back at the Mediterranean diet and what do you understand? In the Mediterranean diet, they eat a lot of fish. They eat a lot of beautiful olive oil and olives and polyphenol rich diets, fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds, and all that nice stuff. And they have a great, life. They have better cardiovascular outcomes. They're healthier generally. So we know that's important. So Zinzino's like, okay, we know that the olive fruit has a lot of polyphenols in it. It's also a fat. It's fat based, so that makes sense. Why don't we take the best quality olive oil on the planet, not from a culinary standpoint, not from a cooking standpoint, but from a polyphenol content standpoint, press it before harvest, so pre-harvest, so that means it's the highest in the polyphenol content, and then at a molecular level, rebind the polyphenol back to the omega-3. That's exactly what the balance oil is. It's an olive oil that's the highest quality in its class, infused with your omega-3s. So it doesn't taste like a fish oil, it tastes like an olive oil. How many of you would prefer taking olive oil every day than, really bad tasting fish oil that your kids don't want to take either because they open the bottle and it smells really weird? Guess what? That's what the balance oil is. 40% of the bottle is the best pre-harvest olives on our planet. One bottle is equivalent to eating over 300 olives, and the rest of the bottle is fatty fish, equivalent to getting a piece of salmon every day in your diet. Every day in your diet. And it doesn't taste fishy, it doesn't oxidize, and it's got the highest oil stability index compared to any of the oils on the market. People say, oh, I use krill oil or cod liver oil or other omegas. Well, we've done our testing through third party. The balance oil, because of the polyphenols, they have the highest stability index. So even after you open the bottle, you take it, gets into your digestive system, gets into the blood, it is not oxidizing. It is safe until it gets into your tissues and it pulls those polyphenols with them, protecting all of your fatty tissues. So when I saw the product, I was like, okay, this is actually quite impressive. Then Zinzino went one step ahead. They're like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to encourage people to get tested. And the test is the same as going to any lab here in Canada. So if you go to a lab in Canada, an omega 3 6 test is going to cost about $130 to $150 depending on which province you go to. In Zinzino, our test kit is $166 Canadian, but they throw in a free bottle of the balance oil. Let me say that one more time. You're ordering a test kit, but they're giving you a free bottle of Balance Oil with it. Why on earth would Zinzino do that? Well, they want you to test first, and they want you to send in your test, and they know it takes about 3 to 4 weeks before you get your results, but they already know the numbers. They know that 97% of people who do the test are going to find out that they are out of balance and they're going to need the balance oil anyways. So why not just say, you know what, take your test and then right away, right after you've done your test, start taking your balance oil. And we take it based on our weight. Okay, so we actually know exactly what you need for your body to get it back into balance. Ask other fish oil companies and they have no clue. They just say, just take the 2 grams per day. We think that will work. Whereas with Zinzino, we know we have to base it on your weight. We know how to saturate your body. We know how to get you back into balance. And then you go on to what's called a subscription of a bottle a month based on your weight, as I said. And guess what? The cost of the product in Canada is only $56 Canadian for the balance oil. Now, when I saw that as a nutritionist, I was like, okay, you know what? All these quality professional brands that we recommend as nutritionists are the same price. They're about, $60, $70, sometimes even $100 because we know they're very clean and they're good quality, quote unquote, but they don't really work, right? So I'm like, oh my God, Zinzino is right in alignment with good quality oils. They're not overpriced, they're reasonable, and they can be affordable by the population that really needs them. And they're including their first bottle for free. That's a fantastic deal. And then the monthly commitment is doable. They're just replacing what they're taking with the balance oil now. And then here's what happens next. So we do the test, we get on the balance oil, we get our results, we'll realize that we were out of balance, we need it anyways. Then we just take it every day. Simple habit. Just take your oil every day. And if you like, put it on your salad. Or if you like bread, have some balsamic vinegar, put your balance oil and dip it in. It tastes delicious, by the way. We have a lemon orange mint flavor, and there's one that's just lemon. Oh, they're so good. I actually look forward to it every morning. And so you just take it every day. It's part of your food. It's the food that's missing on your plate. But here's what Zinzino did that was even more spectacular. They said, you know what? If you stay on the product for 4 months, then on the fifth month, we will send you another test kit, but for free. Let me say that one more time. They're going to send you your second test kit worth $166 Canadian, which, by the way, if you went to a lab to do in Canada, you would pay another $130 to $160, depending on which province you're in, because you'd have to test again. They give it to you for free, and they give it to our customers for free. Now, talk about value. Okay, so 166 is actually covering 2 tests and a bottle, which is a fantastic way to help a lot of people out there get back into balance. Now, guess what happens? Well, I've already given you what happens, which is we know that within 120 days, 95% of people who take the balance oil are actually back in balance within those 4 months. Now, let me ask you a question. If you did a test and you failed, you changed one thing, which is you added the balance oil into your routine, and then you tested 4 months later and you were back in balance, would you be impressed? Would you say, you know what? That's a great health move I just made. It was simple. I take oils anyways. I proved that it worked. Would I go back to my regular fish oil from the health food store, or do you think I'd stay on the balance oil to stay in balance going forward? How many of you would stay on the balance oil? And that's exactly what's happened at Zinzino. Zinzino now has well over 1 million customers, okay, that are now using the balance oil. And we know that they stick because we've got a 20-year history. We know the track record, and we know that people are using this because it actually works. And it's not them taking our word for it, they're doing it based on testing, a real blood test that's anonymous. Now, when I saw that as a nutritionist and a teacher in this field, I'm like, This makes so much sense. Now I actually have a way that I can easily help anybody out there, 97% of people walking around right now. If I all I did is I got them back into balance, I've done one of the best things I could have for their health and well-being. How many of you can see that that I would fulfill on my mission as a nutritionist to help a lot of people? Now, you're on this call maybe because you want to help your own self, like you want to be healthier this year. You care about your family, your immediate family, maybe your friends, maybe the people you associate with, maybe even the people you work with. You want them to feel better and not suffer. You might say, you know what? I can see how this is going to be so important for everybody to know about. And that's what I wanted you to know next is yes, getting back into balance for yourself is the first step. We really want everybody to experience that. And it's not just the omega 6 3 that we're helping people with. Beyond that, like I said, Zinzino is science driven. We do have other blood tests. We do have other health solutions. For example, we just launched a new gut health test that measures in your blood what your gut microbiome is producing and if it's inflammatory or if it's actually good for the immune system because they're always making metabolites. We can test it now. And then we have a solution to help your gut microbiome get back into balance. We also have something for your immune system. We've done a lot of research on beta glucans and activating your white blood cells that go out there and find cells that shouldn't be there, foreign things that shouldn't be there, and prime them and make sure that your immune system is working well so that you can actually be resilient in today's world. And that's what Extend does. And it's fantastic. I've been reading so much about it. I'm actually going to do a whole webinar on the topic of immune health and beta glucans. So hopefully one day you guys will all tune into that as well. But I just wanted you to know that Zinzino does have other solutions for other health issues. One in particular that I'm really passionate about is mental wellness. A lot of people today are feeling stressed out. They're not sleeping well. They're overwhelmed. There's so much unrest in the world around them. They're feeling anxiety and they just need to relax. Like they just need something to feel like they've gone to the spa, but every day. That's what Viva does. It's made from a whole food saffron extract, and boy, does it work. Just even the first dose, the first day you take it, you're gonna go, I actually feel this. I actually feel good. I actually feel happy. So it's one of my favorite products. I always love adding it in with the balance oil. And whether it's somebody's young, like they're a teenager, I don't want to recommend they take any pharmaceuticals, but they're feeling depressed or sad. Viva is such a good fix. And I even give this to my mom because she's older. I want to protect her brain from cognitive decline, and saffron is a really powerful antioxidant for your central nervous system and your brain. So it's one of my favorites. But I just wanted to mention that as well. On top of this, it's not just about being in balance, it's about becoming the best version of yourself. How many of you here want to be the best version of yourselves? Okay, so it's not just, okay, I don't want to be sick anymore. I don't want to be in pain anymore. I want to be the best. Well, guess what? We now have over 100 Olympic athletes that are now using the Zinzino protocol and products. Now they can choose anything from the entire world, right? They're gold medalists. They're like the top in physical performance in their sport. They put a lot of demand on their body. They need to make sure their nutrition is on par. They need to make sure they get in as much training as possible. That means they need to recover faster. And guess what? We have over 100 Olympians that are now using Zinzino by choice. And that tells you that we're not just about getting you into balance. If you want to extend your ability, your performance, your sport, your resilience, well, we now have the solutions, as I said, at Zinzino as well. So, hopefully, from the health perspective, I've shed some light to show you that we have something in test based nutrition, which is quite powerful. Hopefully, you also saw that there was maybe something you didn't know, which is this whole omega 6, omega 3 thing that has to be in balance. But the other thing I want to bring to your attention is that the world today is looking for opportunity. The world today is looking for something stable, something that they can put their feet into and feel grounded, something where they don't feel like their job is going to be replaced by AI tomorrow or next month or 6 months from now, something where they can actually make a purposeful difference. How many of you are kind of in that boat as well? Well, part of Zinzino is the opportunity to not just share some of the products with people that you care about and get yours for free, but there's also an opportunity to become a partner with us and actually share this information, get people on webinars, and build a business around this. And if you feel that that's something that's part of your calling, like, you know what, I'd love to diversify. I don't know what's going to happen. And yes, an extra, $500 a month, an extra $1,000 a month, an extra 2 to 5,000 or more would be great to start building now if I don't need it, but might need it, or I know it's coming. I better start doing something now. I've been looking for the right solid vehicle. Well, I want you to invite you to look into Zinzino because number one, we have a 20-year track record. We can now build this business, test-based nutrition business, in over 100 countries worldwide. We're a publicly traded company on NASDAQ. The company is cash rich, debt free, and you can actually build a very solid business with a very solid forward thinking wellness company like Zinzino. So there's a lot of ways for you to get paid with us. The financial plan is lucrative. And on Saturdays, we do a very powerful presentation training on this aspect. So what you want to do is get back to the person that invited you on this call and say, you know what? I really like what I heard. I definitely want to get tested. I definitely want to try the balance oil. But you know what? If there are people in Zinzino right now that are making what my goal is, hey, maybe an extra €1,000 or 2, 3,000 Canadian or 12,000 or 20,000 or 50,000, or they want to replace a six-figure salary. There are people in Zinzino today that are earning those. The only difference between you and them is that they got started before you, and a lot of them are from Europe because we've been around as a Norwegian company for almost 20 years. We're kind of new to North America, and they just put the work in. And what you need to do, how you need to do it, we teach and train all of that. So I don't want you to think that you need to be a health expert. You really don't. You don't have to know anything. You just need to have a passion and desire to want to help people. And if you have that, then you can learn all the skills you need, and you've got all the resources like webinars like this one that can help you educate and inform your communities to help you build a business with us. So for tonight, I did want to keep it within an hour. I know I spent a lot more time on the health aspect, and I appreciate all of you tuning in tonight. But the one thing I do want to encourage you to do is number one, thank the person that invited you on this call if you're a guest tonight, because sometimes we get those little butterflies in our tummy when we want to share something. We kind of feel like we don't want to feel rejected, and so we don't share something that could, realistically change somebody's well-being. So if somebody did invite you, acknowledge them, thank them for their courage for reaching out to you and caring enough to say, you know what, this is information you need to know. I'd love for you to be on to get your opinion about it. So do thank them. It made a huge difference for me when Nathan reached out to me before the summer. He said, Kareem, you're a teacher in the field of nutrition. Have you heard of this test and this balance oil? And I said, no, Nathan, I haven't. I'm in this field and I should know about this. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. And since then, it's helped me tremendously affect the lives of my clients, of my family, and actually build a business around this that's in integrity with my mission and purpose. So, with that, I will stay around for some questions. For those of you who do need to go, thank you for tuning in tonight. And I hope you have a great evening, and I look forward to working with all of you if you decide to become a partner with us. And just know the support and the tools are definitely here to help you win. So with that, thank you, everybody. Have a great night. And if you have any questions, feel free to unmute, and I'll help answer those as well.